He scrubbed floors that others walked on without noticing him. To them, Malik was invisible, just another janitor in a crisp white shirt and tired eyes. They mocked his accent, laughed at his uniform, and tossed their trash at his feet like he was less than human. But what they didn't know was that the man they dismissed had built something far greater than their judgment could see. One morning, when the boardroom doors opened, the laughter stopped. Because Malik wasn't there to clean anymore. He was there to lead. Every morning before sunrise, Malik arrived at the towering glass building that scraped the Manhattan sky. To the world, it was just another corporate headquarters. To him, it was survival. He mopped the marble floors, emptied the trash bins, and polished the conference tables where executives would soon discuss million-dollar deals. They passed him daily, their perfume lingering longer than their respect. To them, Malik was the janitor, nothing more. But beneath that faded uniform was a man who once dreamed of building his own company. Back home, before life's detours and discrimination, Malik had graduated with honors in engineering. But in this city, where accents were mocked and skin color decided first impressions, doors stayed closed no matter how many qualifications he held. So he took the job that nobody else wanted, just to keep the lights on and food on the table. Still, Malik never stopped learning. During lunch breaks, he'd sit quietly in the empty conference room, reading business journals left behind by executives. At night, he studied online courses on leadership and finance, the same subjects the people upstairs had mastered. He wasn't bitter, just patient. Some nights, when the office was silent, Malik would stare out the window at the city's skyline and whisper to himself, "Someday." But in that same building, whispers about him were cruel. They called him the cleaner, the help, and joked about his broken English. He swallowed the humiliation, like he'd swallowed countless others, not realizing that fate was quietly building a moment that would make the world remember his name, because the man they laughed at wasn't done rising yet. For years, Malik kept his head down. The office hierarchy was clear, and he was at the bottom. But no matter how invisible he tried to be, he couldn't escape the weight of their judgment. Every sneer, every careless insult reminded him that in their eyes, he'd never be anything more than a man with a mop. The mornings were the hardest. As executives rushed through the lobby, some dropped their coffee cups without apology, expecting him to clean up. Others pretended not to see him at all. One manager, Brian, made it a routine to humiliate Malik in front of others. "You missed a spot, genius," he'd say with a smirk, tossing a crumpled paper on the floor. Laughter would follow, sharp, echoing through the hallways like a reminder of his place. But Malik never reacted. He picked up the paper, smiled politely, and went back to work. They thought his silence meant weakness. What they didn't know was that silence was strategy. At night, Malik transformed his pain into fuel. He'd go home, change out of his uniform, and open his laptop. In that small apartment filled with second-hand furniture, he studied leadership, entrepreneurship, and the art of turning ideas into impact. He began sketching plans for a startup, a company built on innovation and respect. While they mocked him during the day, he was quietly designing the blueprint of his comeback. Still, the prejudice never stopped. During the company's annual holiday party, he was ordered to clean the banquet hall while others celebrated. As he wiped the tables, he overheard them talking, laughing about how people like him never rise above janitorial work. One voice said, "He should be grateful. At least he has a job." The words burned deep, but Malik stayed composed. He'd learned that revenge wasn't loud, it was patient. One afternoon, the tension reached its peak. The company announced a new leadership transition. The CEO was retiring, and whispers filled the hallways about who would replace him. The employees speculated names of high-ranking executives, each more confident than the last. Malik listened quietly as Brian boasted that he'd be next in line. That same day, Malik was called into the office manager's suite after hours. He assumed it was about cleaning schedules. Instead, he found a man in a tailored suit waiting for him. "Malik," the man said, smiling warmly, "I'm part of an investment group that reviewed your proposal." Malik froze. His proposal, the one he'd sent months ago under a mentorship program, never expecting a reply. The investor continued, "We were impressed. You've built something powerful, something real. We want to help you scale it." That moment changed everything. Within months, Malik's tech company, one focused on efficient building management and employee welfare, began attracting major investors. His innovation was revolutionary, bridging the gap between labor workers and smart technology. The same people who once ignored him were unknowingly using his systems to streamline their operations. But Malik kept his success quiet. He wanted to see their true faces one more time, the ones who laughed at him, insulted him, and believed he'd never rise. And soon, he'd get that chance, because when the board announced their new corporate acquisition and introduced the company's new owner, no one expected who would walk through those doors. The man they used to ignore, the janitor they humiliated, was about to make his return. And this time, the room would fall silent. The boardroom buzzed with excitement that morning. Cameras were set, journalists gathered, and every employee crammed into the hall for the biggest announcement in the company's history. A new CEO was taking over after a massive merger, and everyone was eager to meet the mysterious buyer who had acquired the company for millions. In the front row, Brian straightened his tie, whispering to a coworker, "Bet it's some big shot from Silicon Valley." The laughter was smug, confident, cruel. The same sound Malik had heard 1,000 times echoing down those marble halls. Then, the double doors opened. Silence fell like a curtain. Every face turned as a familiar figure walked in, the man in a janitor's uniform they used to ignore. Except now, Malik wasn't holding a mop. He wore a sharp black suit, his posture tall, his presence commanding. The whispers rippled through the crowd like electricity. That's the janitor," someone stammered. Malik stepped to the podium, his voice calm but firm. "Good morning. My name is Malik Johnson. Some of you may remember me from the maintenance team." A few uncomfortable chuckles echoed through the room, quickly dying as he continued. "I'm also the founder and new CEO of Apex Facilities, the company that just acquired this building and all its operations." Every word hit like thunder. The same people who had laughed at him were now frozen in disbelief. Brian's face turned pale. The executives shifted uncomfortably in their seats, their confidence dissolving into shame. Malik's gaze moved across the room, not with anger, but with quiet strength. "You taught me something valuable," he said. "That respect can't be bought with a title. It's earned in how you treat those you think you'll never need." The room stayed silent, the same way it had been when they'd made him invisible. But this time, it was silence born from realization, not arrogance. And as Malik looked out over the stunned faces of those who once mocked him, one truth echoed louder than any applause could. The janitor they laughed at was now the man signing their paychecks. In the weeks that followed, everything inside that company changed. The same hallways that once echoed with laughter at Malik's expense now carried a different kind of silence, one made of reflection. Some employees avoided his gaze, too ashamed to meet the eyes of the man they'd mocked. Others tried to apologize, but Malik never sought revenge. He wasn't there to humiliate anyone. He was there to rebuild something better. Under his leadership, the company transformed. He raised wages for the custodial staff, introduced mentorship programs for minority employees, and created scholarships for students who, like him, were brilliant but overlooked. The janitors, the drivers, the cafeteria workers, the people who kept the company running, were now seen, heard, and valued. One morning, Malik returned to the same marble lobby where his story had begun. He paused by the reflection on the polished floor he once cleaned and smiled faintly. Life had come full circle. Not because he'd proven them wrong, but because he'd proven himself right. But even as success surrounded him, Malik never forgot the sting of being unseen. He knew his story wasn't rare. It was a mirror reflecting what so many others endured every day. Being underestimated, disrespected, or dismissed simply because of how they looked. Racism doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers, in ignored greetings, in lowered expectations, in the quiet assumption that someone's place in life is fixed. But Malik's story reminds us that worth can't be measured by uniforms or titles. It's measured by resilience, dignity, and what a person builds when no one believes in them. So, the next time you walk past someone in silence, thinking they're beneath you, remember Malik. The man they laughed at became the man they worked for. Because greatness doesn't always enter the room in a suit. Sometimes it walks in with a mop and a dream. Have you ever been judged for where you started, instead of what you're capable of? Tell your story below. Someone out there needs to hear it. Don't miss more powerful real-life stories. Hit subscribe now.